So, Stephen, everyone wants to know, what was around before the Big Bang?
Nothing was around before the Big Bang.
The universe began to exist about 13.8 billion years ago. Scientists call that event the Big Bang. That's actually not a good name because it wasn't big and it wasn't a bang. The universe was squeezed into a tiny, tiny point, and there wasn't any explosion, just a very rapid expansion, like a balloon that someone is blowing up. I wonder sometimes, why did they call it the Big Bang? Maybe it's to distract us from the tremendous reality that it revealed. It makes it seem like a random explosion. I think a better name would have been the beginning of the universe. This is God's cosmos. The Big Bang is really significant because if the universe began to exist, then it means that someone, something must have made it exist.
That's why it's natural to ask what there was before the Big Bang. I remember watching Neil deGrasse Tyson once ask Stephen Hawking that question. Stephen Hawking was the most famous theoretical physicist of recent times. He died in 2018. Here's how their conversation went.
So, Stephen, everyone wants to know, what was around before the Big Bang?
Nothing was around before the Big Bang. According to Einstein's general theory of relativity, space and time together form a space-time continuum or manifold which is not flat, but curved by the matter and energy in it. I adopt the Euclidean approach to quantum gravity to describe the beginning of the universe.
Stephen's right in a way because there was no thing, nothing around before the Big Bang. If what you mean by thing is some physical object composed of mass energy existing in space-time. But if the universe began to exist, then it must have been made to exist by something that is not a physical object composed of mass energy existing in space-time.
God, in other words.
Yes.
So it all depends on what you mean by the word thing. If the meaning of the word thing is expanded to include something that's not like the universe, not physical, then Stephen's wrong.
What if they say that if we bring God into science, we stop thinking rationally? That we start explaining things in terms of elves and fairies and other supernatural beings? I know, for example, Richard Dawkins uses this argument when discussing God and science.
That's a terrible argument. Nobody's talking about fairies or elves. God isn't a fairy tale. He's real. We have evidence for his existence. The thing that's a fairy tale is the idea that we have to do science without God. That's the fairy tale. And it's actually led to bad science.
How's that?
So if you don't want to believe in God, then you have to say that the universe has existed forever and ever and ever. Imagine an infinite, never-ending past. Now imagine infinite, never-ending space. The two go together. And this is what scientists believed before the Big Bang. They believed in an infinite time going back and infinite space because they wanted to do science without God. This led to paradoxes. One famous paradox is called Olber's paradox, a German astronomer. He said that if the universe is infinite in size and it has an infinite number of stars, then when you look up at the night sky, then no matter where you look, your line of sight must strike a star somewhere. So when I look up at the night sky, it shouldn't be dark. It should be as bright as day. On the other hand, there was another paradox. It's called the heat-death paradox. According to this paradox, if the universe has existed for an infinite amount of time, then the stars have had enough time to burn out. When we look up at the sky, it should be completely dark. We shouldn't see any stars. We shouldn't even see the sun during the daytime. Both of these paradoxes suggest that the universe is finite in space and also in time. And that's actually what the Big Bang shows. But scientists didn't want to say that because they wanted to do science without God.
That makes me think that the evidence for the Big Bang is quite substantial. Otherwise, they would still be insisting that the universe has existed forever.
Yep, it's overwhelming. There's so much evidence that's piled up over the last 90 years that everybody, all scientists now believe that the universe began to exist. There's two pieces of evidence that are particularly compelling. The first is Edwin Hubble's discovery in 1929 that the universe is expanding. How he came to that conclusion, there's a really fascinating story, but I'm going to save that for a future episode where I'll show you how it relates to a very interesting verse of the Quran. For now, let's just run with it and think about what it means for him to have discovered that the universe is expanding. If the universe is expanding, it's getting bigger, it means that yesterday it was smaller. 100 years before that, million years before that, even smaller. If you wind back the clock of time, you come to a point and you can't get any smaller than that. That means that the universe must have begun to exist. There must have been an event called the Big Bang. That's the first discovery. The second discovery is related to the idea that at this first moment, or these early moments, the universe was, everything that we see was packed into a tiny, tiny point. And because it was all packed into a tiny, tiny point, it was unimaginably dense. And because it's unimaginably dense, when you squeeze matter together, it becomes hotter. It was unimaginably hot. In 1948, two American researchers at Bell Laboratories, they turned their radio antennas and they found that no matter where they turned them, there is a low frequency radiation. And the strange thing about this radiation is that it has no source. It's not coming from any star. It's not coming from anywhere, and it's everywhere. Where did it come from? This low temperature radiation is a remnant of the Big Bang, because at the Big Bang, the entire universe, this tiny thing, was hot, really hot. As it expanded, that heat spread throughout the universe. And the remnant of that is this low temperature radiation that we see around it. Scientists call this the cosmic background microwave radiation. And it's one of the strongest scientific confirmations that the Big Bang really happened. Since then, there have been many other scientific confirmations. Everybody believes in the Big Bang now. The scientific evidence is overwhelming. The universe began to exist.
So if scientists accept the Big Bang as fact, why do they hold on to the assumption that the universe should be explained without God? How does that make sense?
It doesn't make any sense. And that's why we should get rid of the assumption. If the Big Bang happened, then something made it happen. And that thing that made it happen cannot exist in time, because time began with the Big Bang. It cannot be made of mass or energy, because that began with the Big Bang. It can't find its place in space-time.
That's God.
Yes, but not the God that most scientists imagine. It's not the God of the Bible, because the Bible and the Big Bang are incompatible. I'll tell you more about that in the next episode.
All right.
If you like this episode, then check out my Why Islam is True course, in which I teach you 4 rational arguments that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself used to show that Islam is true. Learning on YouTube is great, but if you want to reach a learning goal, a learning destination, like how to make rational arguments, how to think critically as a Muslim, how to engage with modern science as a Muslim, then you need to follow a map that's been specifically designed to take you to your learning goal, step by step, through a series of carefully designed learning objectives and learning activities that take you to your final learning destination. That's how this course has been designed. This course shows you the what, the why, and the how. It shows you what we believe as Muslims. It shows you why those beliefs are based on evidence and 100% true based on Quranic rational arguments. And it shows you how to use those arguments to address common objections against Islam by atheists and others on topics such as evolution, the problem of evil, the age of Aisha, and much more. It consists of 20 modules, and it includes bi-weekly live sessions with me, pre-recorded lessons with 81 bite-sized videos, 247 application activities and real-world scenarios, a 24/7 community where you can ask a question and get it answered within 24 hours, and there's an option to buy a course textbook as well. Find out more at www.whyislamis.true/course and learn why Islamic seminaries are adopting this course as part of their curriculum to train the next generations of scholars. This course is actually the first and prerequisite course in the Basira classical curriculum in modern context, a 4-year curriculum consisting of 31 courses that will teach you everything that a Muslim needs to know about their deen and be ready for modern society. This 4-year Basira seminary curriculum is based entirely on the Muslim scholarly tradition, but it teaches you how to apply that tradition to the world in which we live, and it's taught completely in English. Why Islam is True is the first course in that 31 course curriculum. Check it out at www.whyislamistrue.com/course.